No, 8 people not from South Sudan are not going to be deported to South Sudan because of Donald Trump's illegal, unconstitutional deportation plan, because a federal judge just grounded those planes as well. What am I talking about? Well, you're going to have to tune into Legal AF, our podcast at the Midweek, and here's a clip.
We're back, and we are going to talk about our last topic of the evening, and the fact that we are shipping people to, now it looks like, South Sudan in violation of court orders. And this is just bananas what's going on here. In an effort to deport people quickly, Donald Trump is doing lots of different things, right? He is revoking certain visas, he's revoking statuses, he's paying people to self-deport, he is speeding up the process, the immigration process, to streamline it so that you're not mired in court process for years and years and years. And frankly, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that the immigration system was broken. Congress was unable to pass any law that made sense of immigration, made sense of the issue. The immigration courts have huge backlogs. There is a problem. And I think we have to be honest about that and call that out. And as a result, lots and lots and lots of people came over to the United States. And there are some people who felt frustrated by that because they felt that some cities can't take it, right? Some cities love and want to have migrants, and it's actually a huge boom to their economy, and great workers, great neighbors, great people. But there are some places that I think that it was very difficult for them, and there was a lot of frustration there. And so the system has been a problem for a long time. Different people have different ideas on how to fix the problem and have different ideas of what immigration in this country should look like. Regardless of what point of view you have, I happen to I live in a sanctuary city. I'm pro-immigration. Every person here practically in this country that is not a Native American is the product of an immigrant. And it's partly why I love this country, right? What makes this country beautiful and amazing is just the different cultures and different people. And, we have the Statue of Liberty here in New York. It's all about immigration. We have Ellis Island. I mean, it's just, this is the history of this country. But so regardless of what your point of view is, we are also allegedly a country of laws. We were, up until recently, a country of laws. And so what does that mean? It means that you follow laws whether you agree with them or not, because we're a democracy, right? That's part of being in a democracy, is you try to persuade people, you vote people into office. They put laws in place of, that people that your representatives vote for, and you follow them because that's the law. And some laws I like and sometimes I don't. But the laws you like and I don't, I'm going to follow. And that's a civil society, right? And that's where we live. This administration doesn't seem to want to do that, because there's a whole set of laws in place that protect immigrants and protect people who are in detention. And you have things like due process rights. In fact, the Constitution even talks about due process rights. What does that mean? It means you have a right to process. You have a right to some kind of court process before certain things are taken away from you. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to really want to follow that. They don't want to respect that. And so they talk about things like suspending habeas corpus. That's something they want to talk about. And what is suspending habeas corpus? Habeas corpus, a writ of habeas corpus, essentially means to bring a body to court. It means produce the body to court. Something Kristi Noem did not know, by the way. She got it wrong, what that is, which is a little scary. But that's a right in this country, right? That is a right that no matter who you are, if you're detained, you have a right to have your body be brought to court through a habeas corpus to be told to challenge your detention. Now, the judge might say, sorry, you're staying in, but you have a right to have process. And that is one of the indelible rights. It's in the Constitution, and it's only been suspended a couple of times, I think less than a handful of times in our nation's history, and certainly not any time in the recent history. I think the very last time had to do with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and that was. But before that, it was even much longer ago in the 1700s and 1800s. I mean, that's how rare this is. But Stephen Miller is talked very openly about wanting to do that so they can deport people and deport migrants and not have to have them be brought to court. They can just take them in the middle of the night and take them away and bring them to a place where either their home country or somewhere they will be accepted. And if they are not on this soil, then there's nothing we can do if you suspend habeas corpus, even if you don't suspend habeas corpus, if they're taken away, how are we going to get them back? So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be able to meet this promise to deport 1 million migrants before the end of the year, because that's what the promise is. They want to be able to just ship first, ask questions later, kind of like they did with Abrego Garcia. Oops, we made a mistake. Doesn't really matter, right? Mistake. Doesn't really matter. Just get as many people out as possible, whether it's the Aliens Enemy Act that they're invoking to try to streamline things, whether it's to just go and scurry people away in the dark of night, whatever it is. It's even a bridge too far for the Supreme Court of the United States, who last week in the middle of the night said, you know what, you can't do that. You have to give some process. Telling them the night before, after business hours, and then putting them on a plane the next morning without a meaningful opportunity to consult with a lawyer is not due process. And even the Supreme Court, that was a bridge too far. And what's happened today is a Boston federal judge, Brian Murphy is his name. He issued an injunction in March saying that people can't be sent to a third country, meaning a country that you have no connection to. You're not a citizen of that country. It's just a country willing to accept you. Because some people aren't, by the way, some people aren't welcomed by their country, right? You come here from another country and you commit murder, or you commit rape, and you're convicted and you're detained. Your home country might not want you back. And so what are you going to do with that person? These individuals, right? What does Trump do? He picks the worst of the worst. He picks 8 people from Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Cuba, Mexico, and South Sudan, who were 8 immigrants who all have been convicted of the worst offenses you can imagine: murder, rape, robbery, etc. And the night before, literally the night before, despite Judge Murphy issuing an injunction in March saying that people can't be sent to a third party without giving them an opportunity to raise concern like fear of persecution, fear of torture, right? He said you can't do that without giving them an opportunity to challenge it. Doesn't mean you get to stay here forever. It means you get process. It means you have a right to go to court and Trump and his administration gets to say the reasons you shouldn't be here and you should be able to go to this other country. And you get to say the reasons why you don't want to, or you can't, or shouldn't. And that should be. And then the court rules. And then if you lose, then you get sent wherever you get sent. I mean, there's a way of doing what he wants to do and do it the right way. He just doesn't want to. And that's what bothers me, is do it the right way, because due process matters. Process matters. Laws matter. And so these 8 individuals, these immigrants who I accept that they aren't great citizens and people that we necessarily want here. They were told less than 24 hours before, the night before, literally, and the next day they were put on a plane. And Judge Murphy said that is an insufficient amount of time, and he's thinking of bringing a criminal contempt finding, and he wants to hold hearings. He wants names to know who's doing this. Now there's flight trackers for this plane that took them, and they're not sure where the flight is going, and because it didn't stop in South Sudan, who knows? I mean, there's all this question now about and confusion, because that's also the chaos. That's also what they kind of do, right? They don't answer questions, they don't tell you anything, and they sow kind of this chaos. And it's like, oops, well, they're gone. Can't do anything about it. I don't have control over them anyway. And Judge Murphy basically said, no, that's not okay. You can't do it. And their spokespeople are smart. They're like, well, these are bad people. Nobody wants them and nobody wants to accept them. But this is, I think, at least the fourth time the Trump administration has been accused by attorneys of violating this order by Judge Murphy. And it's this, the problem is there's not a lot of repercussion for this because they're gone. And what is a judge going to do to the Trump administration? What are their actual powers?
Well, it's interesting because I think evidently, like you said, this is kind of just, developing. The story is developing. And evidently these men the plane landed, it took off from Texas, went through Ireland. As you said, there's flight trackers on it, and landed in an East African nation, Djibouti. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And that's evidently where it is. The notice that was given was that it was heading to South Sudan. Now the Trump administration is backing off from that, saying that's not the ultimate destination. They're not giving the ultimate destination. But the Judge Murphy said that they cannot leave the airplane until he figures this out. He might hold hearings, he said. The lawyers for the deportees wanted him to order the plane to come back. He did not do that, but he might have some sort of hearings while they're still in custody. This is very much a developing story. The fact that we have been here more than once before, where there's a clear order. This is how you handle sending somebody to the third party. In this situation, they had valid deportation papers. It was more about where you were sending them. And Judge Murphy had made clear when you're sending them to a third party country, you have to make sure you're giving them notice not in English. You have to give them enough time to be able to consult the lawyers. We just had the Supreme Court, right, with the Aliens Enemies Act saying 24 hours is not sufficient. Here, this is perhaps the amount of time the government gave. There's a little bit in dispute, but it's definitely not more than 24 hours. The notice wasn't English. So very clearly violating his order. Judge Murphy in the hearing today, very upset about the fact that they're violating it. And as you said, he might look into criminal proceedings. And this is not even the only case. There is a Guatemalan man, again with Judge Murphy, that they sent to Mexico, and Trump put in the declaratory statement saying that the man, we only know him by his initials, OCG, had evidently been okay and fine and felt safe going to Mexico. And then when it came time to have a hearing, the ICE agents admitting nobody had actually asked him, nobody had spoken to him. So in the hearing today, Judge Murphy really eviscerating about that too. You basically lied to the court here. So the amount that Trump is doing in terms of violating court orders, lying to the court, all in this name of really, the fact that we're talking about the DHS maybe doing a reality show regarding immigrants, this is the reality show, right? Let's be frank. He's doing this on purpose. He's scaring people. Can you imagine we shouldn't even be talking about deportation or immigration policy. This is about taking somebody off of the streets, giving them a life sentence in a country they're not from for the sole crime of crossing into this thing. And a lot of them haven't come legally into this country. But even if not, you are scaring people. That's his purpose, right? That's his purpose. This is why he doesn't care about the laws. His whole point is to make this as scary, as depraved as possible. As being a daughter of an immigrant, I can't even imagine purposely wanting people to not come to this country, especially when we're talking about low birth rates. We need immigrants more than ever. But, this is what this is about. It's about scaring people, and they're willing to break the law to do it. But, it is heartening to see now. We saw Judge Boasberg talk about criminal contempt. Now we see this judge saying he's going to take it up at another hearing. And it's these low-level career officials that are going to be subjected to this criminal contempt. It's not Trump. It's the low-level ones, which is the only saving grace possibly in this. Because I know that's the thing a lot of people are saying. Who cares about the judge's orders against them? Who cares? It's just violating. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is we're giving these officials due process, right? They're slowly looking into what did these Trump officials know? Did they violate it? We have to be patient and let this play out.
Welcome back. We do a show called Legal AF at the intersection of law and politics so that you don't have to. It's every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch YouTube channel. And then you can pick up clips right here because we're trying to make Legal AF, the YouTube channel, one-stop shopping for all things law and politics. I'm Michael Popak, back on the microphone. Appreciate Dina Dahl stepping in for me and joining my regular colleague, Karen Friedman, Agnifilo, right there. We are number 13, last time I looked in the world in podcast, top 100 in all podcasts on YouTube. And that's more of a compliment to you than to us. That's because you've joined us here in this fellowship, putting our shoulders together and speaking truth to each other in order to speak truth to power. Take a moment, hit the subscribe button. That would help us. Listen to the podcast on audio versions, watch us on video versions. And then, of course, there's now the Legal AF Substack. So until my next report, this is Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.